Welcome to the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson, Rick Avalos, and their special guest. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Image Critique Show. There's my good buddy on the other side over there, Ricky. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm doing well, Jeffy. How you doing?
Right. That's good. Well, if people are tuning in, this is cool. We got a nice audience. We got a lot of really nice images tonight. And Rick's going to introduce our guest here in just a moment. But just welcome to everybody, and thank you for tuning in every month. We're exploring some new possibilities for what we can offer you guys. We're even talking about maybe doing more shows. More often, we're talking about doing shows for specific groups. If you have a photography club or state association that you'd like to have this exclusively for them, talk to us. We'd be happy to set that up for you, because it's always about fun and learning. What else do you want to tell them, Rick?
Well, and I think you hit it. It's all about having a good time during this process that we have once a month, and having the fun and, sharing what we feel would be helpful. And when you get one person's opinion, that's okay. But when, you get two or three or more, obviously that's even better. But before we get a whole lot further, I just feel we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize Cliff, our buddy.
Absolutely.
Handling the technical side of it. It takes a crew, and that's certainly what makes this successful as I see it. Now, I want to introduce to you, our viewers, fine photographer, friend of ours for many years.
Long time.
But I want to be careful when we say he's a friend of ours or she's a friend of ours. That's not the only reason they're here. The credentials that Carl Caylor has, as well as our other previous guests, is just astronomical. Carl's been a professional photographer for over 30 years. He got his start, as did Jeffy and myself, in the darkroom, right, Carl? You were a printer, a technician, originally from the UP. Now, originally from the UP, but you've made the move to Holland. So we got him, a special visit all the way from Holland, Michigan.
Michigan.
And Carl is a PPFA approved international affiliate juror. He's got well over, at this point, probably 30, 35, maybe loan images. I guess they're called IE now, if you want to call it that. He teaches yearly. How many years have you racked up with Texas school?
I think this is 19 or 20. It's a
really?
blur.
And
That's
his
great.
classes just always are full, and that's the reason he keeps being invited back. I just want you all to know his work is just unparalleled. Beautiful lighting that Carl understands, as well as composition. He's the whole package, guys. And we're going to really look forward to learning from his input, and whatever Jeff and I can share with you, we're happy to do that as well. So without further ado, we're at about 6:07, and we have, what did you say, Jeffy? 22, 23
We got 23 images, so we have an easy evening. We could talk a little more. Last couple of shows,
Right.
we had a few more images, and we went a little long. So thank you for everybody
Right.
hanging out then and coming back. That's the best part.
And coming back.
Yeah.
You guys, you viewers are the reason we're doing this, and we just can't express how much we appreciate your support, and that's what motivates us, and that's what keeps us going. So thank you so much. And are we ready, Jeffy?
Well, a couple things I want to just mention.
Have anything to offer? Go ahead, Jeff.
Couple of things I want to mention. I know that you probably have heard it by now, but the world-renowned Unmish Dinda of PixImperfect.com, he's coming to the Guild next month, and there's still plenty of seats available. Now, Rick and I had a chance to interview him the other day. If you haven't heard that interview, it's on our site, on the Image Critique Show site, and it's about an hour and a few minutes interview with a just extremely knowledgeable, pleasant young man. Makes you jealous.
The nicest guy in the world. He's just the nicest.
Yeah, wasn't he? Absolutely. So
Oh, yeah.
plan on coming to that program because it's going to be, he's got the Thursday night on the 16th of May is just an open house. And then the next Saturday and Sunday is a paid workshop, but it's going to be a phenomenal thing. And we've got quite a good lineup of more wonderful talent in the next several months. You can check that out on the website. I'm just getting new information to add about those upcoming judges. So I hate to call them judges. This is more guests, right? I mean, this is about our
Oh,
friends
yeah, yeah.
just giving some
Right.
feedback. And the other thing too is that, just real quick in a sidestep, a lot of you have entered images into the ASP competition here recently, and several of you did real well. And big congratulations! That's the big boys league, as they say, and it was cool. And Rick was one of the jurors for that competition. You saw what, 900 images, Rick, or
Yes.
total?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah,
so
it's
welcome.
really interesting because they have the first day of judging and then the second day of critiquing is, as you guys know, Carl, you know that, how that all plays out. But I would like to mention too that, of course, we have Carl tonight, and following up is going to be in these following months, Tom Rouse, Donna Goodhale, Tim Mathieson, Pete Rizak. So, you want to make your notes about them because all of these guests that we have bring something unique to the table, and that's what excites me about inviting these special guests to be with us. I'll ask you again at the end of the show, Carl, but I know you've got some educational material. You wrote a book, of course, on photography. How can our viewers get in touch with you?
Through my website, photoimagesbycarl.net, and there's educational pieces on there. The book is now completely sold out, I believe. A student just bought the last book at Texas School, and he called and he said, "Do you have any books?" I said, "I don't. They have no books left for me." And he got on Amazon and he got the last book. So
Wow.
they're gone. But I do one-on-one and coaching and one-on-one workshops, as well as the schools and different seminars along the way. So
Good. Well, hopefully our
Very
viewers
cool.
had an opportunity to see some of the photographs that you sent us that we put on the site on your page, and just phenomenal work. And I've always admired your work, and I'm looking forward to tonight's good time.
it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. This is gonna be great. Let's see some images.
So one more
Absolutely.
thing I want to just throw at everybody.
Yes,
We would
do.
love some feedback, you guys. You can go to our theimagecritiqueshow.com and scroll down the first page, and there's a little welcome box there. But you can send us information. No, send us questions. What kind of stuff do you want to hear about? I did put our email address in the chat box. So if you got some suggestions of things you want to see, want to hear about, we're also talking about maybe doing some subject matter during these competitions or these critique programs. So maybe we'll announce, like, next time could be just portraiture or wildlife or something. So watch for that coming up. But we'd love some suggestions of stuff you'd like to see or things that we're doing that maybe you want to see a little differently or a little more involved. So please, we're looking for your feedback. So, okay, I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to steal the screen here into Photoshop, and we will start showing some images. You guys already any questions or thoughts out there? Any bad jokes before we start?
Let's do it.
I wanted. There we go. All right, so got this here. That's cool. All right, so let's go into our first image. It is entitled "A Casual Glance." And just double checking, Rick, Carl, you guys can see that all right?
Oh yeah, I can see it fine.
And Carl, I don't know if you've done this, but if you go up to your toolbar, you'll see the word annotate. You can pull a pencil out of there. You've probably done this, but
Annotate. I've not done this on here.
okay.
Where's the annotate?
So
Bottom left corner.
some on your
corner?
toolbar is the word, it's a little pencil. It says
In the little
annotate.
thingy? Cool.
Then there's a pencil tool in there. And if you click on the pencil tool, yeah. You can change
We'll
colors
get rid
of,
of that.
you can change you can get a thicker pen. And then you can change the color. So all three of us have different colors.
Oh, cool. Okay. I'll be green.
Okay.
I'll be darker green.
Don't choose the fourth tool because that goes away.
Oh, let's not do that.
Yeah, which is fine, and I'll clear it as we go along. But anyways, so let's go ahead and let me just clear this. Carl, go ahead and we'll give you the honors to go ahead and start talking about this.
Okay.
A casual glance.
Yeah, love the pose of this, and the pose of the cat has good lines following up with the paws, the appendages of what you have to work with the subject, which is a great way of helping tell a viewer where you want them to go. It also mimics the surrounding, the habitat. I like the repeat of the different curves going on in the cat as well as the habitat as well. So another harmonizing way of or reason for the cat to be there that's comfortable for us to view as a viewer. I do like the tonal values throughout most of it too. I do see, however, a little bit of concern areas up and through the sky. It gets a little bit blotchy here and there, and it's something to maybe consider, maybe if it was cloudy and stuff, but how it translates into black and white sometimes can look like issues, technical issues, when it really was clouds or haze or something like that. So something to consider or to look at, but otherwise, I think this is a really nice image.
Rick, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I do like the presentation and the tonality of the presentation. My concern is lighting. I just feel that there's, it looks like it might have been an overcast day. We can see that kind of evidenced in the background and in the subject itself. But there's just kind of a flatness to the lighting for me. I do like that we have this diagonal line from the rock to the legs up to the face, and then the maker putting the face pretty much in the third area there. So compositionally, I think it's handled quite well. But that was my main concern, was a little stronger directional lighting. If maybe there's some other frames where the light broke through and we could see a little more directional lighting, just to kind of shape the form of the cat.
I think the technique here, the overall finished product here, the quality of the black and white is outstanding. It's some beautiful shades all the way through the whole tonal range, so that's very cool. Yeah, the background does tend to, and it seems like it's a little noisy, so it does tend to pull attention away from the cat. I wouldn't crop it any differently. However, I was looking at this V down here, this black triangle tends to pull my eye away from the cat, and I was wondering, what do you guys think if it were cropped more like this or something in that? Oh, I have the vanishing pen. I didn't mean to do that.
Don't press the button. That's
um,
probably not
that's a good
bad
point.
idea.
Yeah.
you think that would pull your eyes, keep your eye into the cat's face a little more?
Yeah, because you still have the good compositional element of the arm and the rock coming up. So eliminating that might not be a bad idea. It would change the location of the subject within the scene though. But you'd have to balance it out in your mind once you do it and then make the decision that if it's better or not.
Right.
But it's certainly another option to consider for sure.
All right, very cool. All right, let's see. Moving right along, we have and what the heck?
What'd you do? You broke it. Jeff broke it.
No, my folder keeps, the page keeps getting covered up here. Sorry. This is called Backcountry Serenity. Thoughts, Carl?
I like the stair step feel of this from the foreground going back. I think it's well done as far as the triangular composition of the three different waterfalls. We got this area here, and then back here. So not just are we top to bottom, but also from foreground to background within that compositional thought process, which is extremely powerful when looking at this image. So it's not just a flat piece of paper anymore. It is something we can reach into. I think the tonal ranges are pretty well handled. It's hard to say for sure with you're looking through Zoom on somebody
Right.
else's screen on Zoom, but it appears that the tonal ranges are very well handled throughout the motion of the water, the darkness of the water that's still, and then all the rocks and good texture throughout it. So I think this is top level work.
Yeah, sometimes we get into these paradigms, if you want to call it that, where, gosh, I'm not seeing detail in the shadows and the highlights. In this case, I think the highlights are handled very, very well. And I'm just not bothered by the contrast of this. I think it's gutsy, it's gritty. I like the square composition. I'm not sure too much about the texture of the matte. I do like mattes that have a little bit of character to them, but there's so much texture in the scene itself that maybe backing off on the texture overlay or whatever treatment they used on the matte, just backing it off just a little bit. But I agree. When we look at the top fall here and then draw the line down and across and then come back up, we got a really nice triangular composition. And then we have that odd number of threes in the elements that really add to the composition.
Good stuff. And just a couple of questions. What do you think about the water going so black? Is that, I mean, I've heard comments on judges in both directions, and that's a lot of times they don't like that.
I think it gives it a good foundation here. It gives it a really nice base, and it mimics what's going on in the pool above as well. The only two places that I'd look at are this dot and then these two dots right here.
Right.
Tone those.
Yeah. Especially, that's a good point, Carl. Especially when they're coming up against a border or a side of the image, because that really can draw your attention. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. It brings your eye out to the edge of it when you don't necessarily want the judge or the viewer to go out there. You want them to stay in the center of the image or where your content is. So, all right.
Beautiful.
Very well said. So then we have Children of Conflict. This would fall under the reportage category. Carl, what do you think?
It's an interesting scene and story. I'm not exactly sure what the story is, other than the three kids in rambles. So I almost want to see more for two different reasons. One, to see more of maybe what the story is, and two, because what we just talked about, tangents, something on the very edge. And right now, with these feet right on the edge of this, and cut off through the ankle, it's a literal crop through a place that really is drawing our attention, and not in a positive way. So I think maybe seeing more, working with the light that's there, not just exposing for their face, but to deal with what's happening in the background, maybe a different time of day or different angles that might help keep things from being so contrasty. I've got like this one's chest, some of the areas in the background, that might help tell the story a little bit more.
One of the things that I'll say in the reportage category that I'm sure is a difficult thing for the maker to get the point across to the judges is obviously, other than just the interesting story or whatever's there. But this image I know has a lot of story behind it, because this was, from my understanding from the maker, this was shot in the 60s. And definitely has some amazing war history behind it. And what do you guys, how would you recommend to the maker that to pull more of that out, to get it, it's like, these three children, are they homeless now, and are they Yeah, what's their story? How would you best suggest to get that message more to a judge, to someone who's looking at the scene? Any
Well, I
thoughts?
think Carl hit it. I thought Carl hit it when, if there's the environment, okay, the, I understand, what the maker did, and they captured this moment, in a time that to me feels like conflict, but the background is a scene that you could find anywhere in, the South of, well, anywhere in the country for that matter, or any part of the world. But I think tying it in with with that conflict, whether there's some kind of elements of strife, like military machines or something like that. But I totally agree with the cropping. Either to come in really tight on them, or which I don't think would be the best thing to do, or hopefully the file or some other frames would have more room beneath them and to back off just a little bit. But and I guess it could be argued, well, they're so tight in the composition and that adds to the tension of the story.
Right.
But I would like to see more of what the story is about.
I think that this is a good example of communication. We learned in school that communication is, a two-way street. You have to give and then you need to receive for communication to be complete. But in photography, that's not true. You need a third part. And in this case, it's a good example of that need, in that all we see as a viewer is that rectangle. And in this case, we were seeing it without context of a title, really, the story behind it or anything like that. We just see this and, okay, now what is the story? And this could have been a tornado. It could be they just knocked down the barn behind them. I mean, we don't know. We just don't know the story based
Right.
on the rectangle that we see.
Right.
Good points, guys. Thank you. All right, let's see. So let me hang on. I lost my page again here. I got too many things piled up on top of each other. All right, so our next image is called Circa 1945. Carl, what do you think?
I think that's the dude from Norman Rockwell's painting.
Absolutely.
I love the scene and the placement of the person within the scene to a point, because it does tell a story. I'm guessing like barbershop or something to that effect that he might be in. That's the story that I get out of it anyway. What concerns me is the wainscot, or whatever you want to call it, the half wall there, it comes right through his neck area. I wish there's a little bit different angle so that wasn't happening, because this character has character and he's harmonizing within the scene that he is in. I love the expression. I like the lighting on him even. There's a lot of really nice things going on here with compositional elements along with the storyline. So there's so many really good things, but that tension point coming right through between his earlobe and his neck is a hard one to get past.
I think if they would have
You think?
pulled the gentleman out away from the wall a little bit more, that would have cut that
Yes.
down a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What a great story, though. I mean, look at all the paraphernalia around the room, and even the reflection in the mirror has some old stuff hanging on the wall across the room, and the wallpaper looks like it's all, it's aged, and it's just such a great timepiece of this story.
And
This
a weird
gentleman.
balance point with the stove there being a balance point for him. I think
Yeah.
that's important, because this is bold enough that it definitely draws attention. But look when this, I can't draw. We'll try to draw with two hands here. That's our angle that we follow, and he's right within that pathway, and that's a good way of storytelling through a visual piece. So strong work, very well done as far as your composition, but we're picky. And I shouldn't say we, the human nature is picky, and the human mind sees this. And whether they see it or not right away, eventually down the road, it's a red flag in the back of your mind that they're like, wait a minute, that shouldn't be there. It's not comfortable. We like things that are comfortable from human nature. So try not to have any lines cutting through.
Well, and you made a good point, Carl, with one word, picky. And I don't know, I kind of think we need to be, you know, to get those elevated scores or categories or what have you. Jeff and I talk about that a lot. Back in the number days when they scored images, you know, you don't want an 80 to 84. You want 100.
Right.
So that fall short of that, you're still in the 90s maybe. But I appreciate what you're saying as far as, yeah, uh, that horizontal line coming through. And but yeah, I just kind of feel, yeah, maybe we should be picky, and that's a point's well made.
Well, and the other side of that too, Rick, and we've talked about this many times, is that when an image is presented to us or on a panel, when it's done well, it really gives less for a juror to look at. And so it starts getting to be, and the word nitpicky comes to mind. We start looking at the little tiny things. Because if this was just a portrait of this gentleman in his shop that he hired you, this line across the neck isn't that big a deal. But when we're talking scoring and we're trying to take it up to that next level, as it were, God, I hate that term. It's all those little things. So in a sense, I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to justify what we're saying, but it's those little things like that that will take you up to those next higher levels and get the higher scores. So that's kind of what this is all about. So, okay. Next we have, remember to get rid of my pencil there. I'll never get it. Dashing through the snow. Rick, I'll let you jump in this one first if you want to.
Yeah. Really nice directional lighting. I think the color hues were handled well, especially with the presentation. This is one of those images where the key line, I think, was handled really quite well. Occasionally we'll see key line. This kind of a key line is what I call detached, where it's obviously separated from the main image itself. The other one I would call it attached, where it goes all the way around the image and snaps to, if you will, the image. This key line, I think, is handled well because it's obviously we can see it all the way around the image. With the color value of this key line, if it was attached to the image, I would be afraid that we would lose it visually in some areas of the image. And that's kind of a no-no, because if we're going to do a key line or a stroke, we want to make sure we can see it all the way around. So kudos to the maker on that. I do like that we have a nice diagonal composition of the horses. Obviously, there's a lot of action going on here, and you know, I think the exposure is handled very, very well because we're seeing detail in the snow, and then in the dark areas of the horses, we're also seeing, you know, detail. The darkest one that I'm circling now in his chest, you know, still seeing some detail there. I'm wondering just about the color, and maybe you guys can help me with that, of the snow, if we're just tending to be a little bit on the bluish side of it. But you know, whatever your thoughts are, I'd like to hear.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, color wise, you know, it's a very, very blue sky day and snow is going to reflect everything that's around it. So to me, I think the color is kind of okay. We got good color through the horses. We're seeing a little bit of the coolness in there, but again, with that kind of raw light and direct light, we're going to see that kind of situation. I think this is one that I'd like to see cropped a little bit. Can you do your magical crop thing there, Jeff?
Sure, let me do this.
All right. While he's doing that, I really enjoy that the subject on the left with the rope is up against that darker area of the foothills back there. It sets her out, and because of the light hitting her, and then against that darker area. It took quite a while to actually see the secondary subject on the right side, because they kind of get lost light in the light there. And then you got the horizontal of the base of the hills coming right through her eyes again. But I'm wondering if we can crop. Normally, I'd say we want foreground for the horses to go into, but in this case, I think it's been a little stagnant. Yes, I'd go up even more, just a little bit more, because that left side you have to get rid. There we
Yes.
go, somewhere in there. And I think that it would become more powerful, because then the dynamics of it give us the power.
Well, that
of-
sure increases the impact visually for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't
Very
it? When
much
you
so.
really make them, they're exploding into your scene here is what they're doing.
Kind of like into your face, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like Rick said, I mean, the maker did a really nice job exposing, and I mean, that's the kind of time of day we don't like to work outside, but
Right.
it's also the kind of time of day you need to get this kind of situation where you're stopping the action of these horses running at you and the snow flying up. So given the math of it all, I think you worked really well using the math in a difficult situation to still give us something artistic as well. So kudos.
Sorry, I'm just playing with the
Yeah.
color here a little bit because that's the one thing that we really notice in the especially the landscape photography here in the mountains. You get that extremely high amount of ultraviolet light because we're at such a, this is probably at 9,500 foot elevation, and that snow picks up that bright sky so well. And I think if we go in and just simply, I'm just trying to color balance to get that blue out of the snow, and this all of a sudden the snow has so much more impact. You got to be careful you don't blow it out. I mean, you can see we've got some of the spots here around the hooves, but they're really white, but it's not enough area to worry about. But just, and you've got some shadows, so you're going to have cold tones in the shadows. You've got plenty of blue. I should say, like we're trying to get blue. We've got a lot of blue in the sky. So going into trying to take the blue out of the rest of the scene, I think adds that much more snap to the image. But wow, what a powerful story. And I really like this crop that we did. It just really brings the horses. It even makes them more dimensional. If I'll go back to the, I can do that, other crop here. And while it's a neat scene, all of a sudden the horses are in your face.
Right.
See what I'm saying? It just makes it that much more powerful. This guy even almost looks like you're standing 20 feet away with a wide angle lens. And his face is almost distorted compared to the rest of them. So it's just little things like that that add impact, I think, to the whole story, which makes it score higher.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm not thinking scores, and I probably won't talk about scoring or anything like that.
Oh no, that's fine.
Right, but to me, it's about the human, how we see things, and how the mind works, and we can mess with people's minds to make them like images more, and
Right.
that's kind of my thought process for this.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And of course, the bottom line is we want to do beautiful art that we're happy with, that tells a story and has that impact, regardless if it's competition or hanging on somebody's, fire over the fireplace or just on your computer.
All right, this is gorgeous. Cool.
All right. Our next image is entitled Elon's Dream.
Which Elon? Okay.
I don't know if you're expecting a silver car or a rocket ship, but hey,
The Eiffel
rocket
Tower.
ship. What do you think, Carl?
I think it's an interesting scene. I think that to get to be able to see everything that we're seeing here, it makes it look like it's kind of washed out. And it looks like it just needs to be richer and deeper, and the mat is not helping give us that thought process. I do like the balance between the rock structure in the foreground and the astronomical kind of feel in the back. Their galaxies over there. I think that's kind of cool how you staggered those. I think that's really well done. But all in all, it just seems washed out for the scene.
Yeah, the nighttime photography is a little tough to get that contrast that you're talking about in the foreground and the rocks and such. Of course, the sky has the spectacular view of the Milky Way, but it does tend to leave the rest of the scene a little flat looking. But again, that's something that can be done in Photoshop to just kind of spark this whole foreground a little bit more, to give it a little bit of punch. A lot going on here with the I mean, we got, what's nice is we've got these kind of foreground, middle ground, even this ridge line kind of brings us into the scene, and then of course the Milky Way. So there's a lot of great depth. I like this little mound that these pillars are on, so it just kind of again points us towards that direction. So the composition I think is really strong. Even though this kind of cuts our scene in half, I don't think it's a problem, because we have so many other things going on that are telling us, pushing us past that whole view. Rick, what do you want to add to that?
Nothing. I think you guys hit all the points that I would mention.
We did it. We got it all right.
Yes, you did. I'm so proud of you.
You were going to say you're so surprised.
Well, that too, yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely the matte color might be a different choice. Could make it a little stronger, a little less obvious. All right.
Mhm.
Next we have.
Hey, Jeff, this is Cliff.
Yeah,
There was
man.
a comment, there was a comment about the horse image there that came up, and I'll just
Oh, I
read it
missed
to
that
you.
one. Okay.
No, it's all right. Ken says, hey, this is the problem with judges. A PPGCS, which is the guild, critique complained about a tighter crop on that submission, which was much like you are showing. I personally like the tighter crop, but expanded it
Really?
based on the critique. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, well, and you know, and just and not in any defense of how the whole thing does, but that's the reason why there are multiple people on a panel, because there are multiple suggestions. And I've got the same thing where you enter an image and the judges tell you one thing, you do that, in the next competition the judges say no, it's too tight or whatever. So I'm not sure how you can win that game, Ken.
Yeah,
No, you
I
can't.
think we've all been subject to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just, we're gonna, the whole idea, like in this particular platform, is to get input. And it's just our input. And it's, you know, the classic saying, everyone's entitled to their own ridiculous opinion.
Well, and I think that's just it, I mean, that crop was another option. And in the
Right.
end, though, the maker is the artist. And if you take that option, you look and say, yeah, I guess I do like it better, or maybe even more, or maybe just a little bit less. But you make the final decision. These are just options for you to look at and weigh out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And ultimately, at least how I've kind of done my work all these years, is ultimately what makes I made the scene, I created it, I dolled it up in Photoshop and Lightroom. What I wanted to be, the story I'm trying to say, ultimately is I don't want to say the right way, but the best way. The competitions are great. It's going to help us get forward and learn a lot. But ultimately, it's your work. Do it how you saw it, how you imagined it, how you feel best telling the story. So that's kind of how I always go about it. You may not agree with the judges, and every time you can change that crop can and submit it again, and you'll get the same feedback in the other direction. Matte color
Exactly.
always going to change. So I don't know. You're not ever going to win that one, but it's a beautiful image nonetheless. So next image we have is called First in Flight. This is pretty cool here. I love I mean, you've definitely captured the crane in action here, and the face and of course the feet are nice and crisp and sharp, but I do like the motion not only of the wings, but just the camera movement where you've got the ground. So it really is showing the whole story here. Really nice color throughout. Again, the red of the eye, around the eye really makes it stand out nicely. So I like that you played that up and kind of played the color of the background down a little bit. I do like the light not quite white matte. That's very tasteful. Another comment might be, again, right or wrong, it's just a comment. Since we kind of tend to read left to right in this hemisphere, maybe flipping this over might be a little more comfortable. Viewing the bird flying from left to right. Again, another one of those opinions like the crop of the last one. Carl, what are your thoughts?
I really do appreciate a couple of things in here. One is the composition. The bird has a place to fly into. I would weigh it back and forth. I think it's a good idea to look at it flip both ways. And I know we read left to right, and I know it's always is a good suggestion. I tend to like things this way myself, but I'm different. So I also agree with, I think you hit it on the head with the matte being just a little bit off white.
Yeah.
And that's a really good trick, and not just for white things, but for dark things too. Don't make a black matte, because then we compare everything in that scene, and if you don't have good blacks, then it looks muddy. And in this case, because it's an off-white presentation, man, the highlights in that bird really jump out at you. I think that's well thought out.
Rick, what can you add?
Yeah. Yes, there are a couple areas of highlights that are just giving this subject dimension, which I really enjoy. A couple things that kind of concern me was this circular dark area right here. And the fact that we have kind of the horizon is almost right in the middle. And then we have, areas of concern like in the bottom left. I'm even thinking more of a narrow crop,
Cropping up from the
coming
bottom.
up from, yeah, because there are a lot of elements, visual elements here of different tonalities that are really competing for attention. But I'm just kind of thinking if we had a little more of a pano, I think there'd be a little more impact to the image.
I kind of like the bird's heads, but I think you're right, Rick. That I think is
Yeah.
the balancing act.
Now the horizon's down on the third.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Like that. Yeah, that's cool. Hey, you heard it here first. Where that come from? You heard it here first on roller derby. Nice work, though. I would be really.
That
I've
is
done
very
enough birds in flight, not many, but enough to know that this is not an easy one to get that sharpness in the face. Of course, the feet are in the same plane, so that works. But to have some movement and the motion that helps tell the story, very well done. All right.
What's next? What's next? Let's see another one.
We have one called formal wear. I will clear the marks here in just a second. Carl, what's your thoughts on formal wear?
I get the story, I guess, is it almost looks tuxedo-ish or suit-ish on the bird. And I do appreciate the nice line of the body, the back coming up, giving us a very strong angle up into the bird's head. But to me, this is almost high key, low key type of contrast situation between subject and background, where it's so bright in the background without any structure to it, that the darks are almost too big for us to have it stand out and not look like it's just out of key. But I think the bird is nicely done and well composed. I just think that that's going to be the battle in this particular instance.
Right. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah. The contrast between the dark, tonality of the bird and the key, I guess is what I'm saying, low key subject against a high key background is pretty tough to get away with. My concern too was with the key line that we just talked about, this one being what I would call attached. And yeah, we can see it pretty much around, the image. But then look right here where we start to lose it. And then we pick it up and here. It's just one of those things that I think, key lines and mats are, the purpose is to enhance the image and embellish the image and not to be an area of concern. So that's something that was grabbing my attention.
Well, I think it's pretty much been said. This is a tough shot. I mean, I think it's handled well. You've got this really bright, overcast kind of a look, and it's handled well in exposure between the whites and the darks, and the dark didn't go to a muddy, ruddy kind of a not black, so that's handled very well. And it is a tough one. I think it's kind of a tough call as to how this would do in a competition, just because of what the guys have been saying here, that it's just really, it's a high contrast image, handled very nicely. Hard to know how it would do in a competition, as it is. I don't know if that helps, but that's where we're at on this. So let's see. We now have Grubhub. Looking for the Grubhub bag there. No. Carl, what do you think?
I think it's cute, and the title kind of makes you kind of chuckle a little bit. But I think the composition, I think, is kind of nice. The little perch there in the bottom left corner, and the bird come up. I think we could probably lose a little bit of the top so that it's not so centered up and down in the vertical axis. And then I know it's a bird, but we completely lose the shape and form of the bird because of a little bit of the lighting and because of the grub that's covering it up. I wish if we could just tell the bird to move a little bit so we can see a little more
Turn his head the other
its
way.
profile, or having more communication with that bird. And it's funny when people say that, and you're like, well, oh, you can't do that. You're right, you can't, but that's what makes a particular image special compared to another one. And it's catching it at the right opportune time, and sometimes it's that picture perfect moment, and sometimes it just isn't. And in this case, that grub covering it up enough is covering it up enough that I can't tell if there's a beak there. Is it a bird? I mean, I can see wings, but it loses its shape a little bit too much.
Right. This is really a tough lighting condition to be photographing in. Very, very strong contrasty lighting. And then I'm not saying it has been, but it, just feels that maybe because of that contrasty lighting, there's almost a sharpening or a little bit of a over sharpening to the image. And it may just be because of the contrasty lighting. I'm not sure that the matte color is really helping the image. Again, we'll go back to the key line. Yeah, it's detached, but it's so far away from the image. The key lines really are to help us stay inside the image. So I would bring it in, at least half or 2/3 around the image itself. But yeah, I would consider a different color for the map. But my biggest concern is the condition of the lighting condition, and to work in that, my hat's off to the maker. I just am battling with the lighting and the highlights that are caused by the contrast of the lighting.
Yeah, it's a tough time of day. I mean, you go out and you shoot wildlife and the birds and such, you kind of have to go when they're out and get what you can. But this is what you face sometimes. Again, we're talking competition wise, but even in just basic composition, these are the little things that can fight with the viewer as to whether it's not comfortable. If it was soft cross lighting, later in the day, early morning, it's a lot more inviting, friendly, warm light. People can fall in love with that kind of stuff a lot faster too. So not just the competition aspect, but also the sales or just the overall feeling that you get with this kind of thing. So
Yeah.
Also, be careful. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe I'm seeing it on Zoom, but all the way across the bottom here, like a horizontal line, you can see an actual line here.
Yeah.
And then you have a color aberration all through this area here. I saw some of the same kind of lines on the mat as well. So be careful with some of the technical areas that we don't have issues with that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the hard thing these days because we have, we've calibrated our monitors and then you have to send these images in front of judges who don't know what they're doing. No, I mean who different calibrations, different color spaces, all those kind of things definitely pull into that. And I can see what you're talking about, Carl. It's just pulling the eye away from the quality of the rest of the scene. So
And I think another point to be made, just what you pointed out, Carl, as far as the aberrations, and if you're sitting on a panel as a judge who maybe didn't pick up on that, once it's brought out, the term that you hear so often is now I can't unsee it.
yeah.
Mhm.
And just it kind of I get the feeling that just that little bottom half there where you guys have circled, maybe has the image been extended or something like that. And sometimes that happens. And of course, whether you just pull it or whatever, I'm seeing an awful lot of pixelization there in that stump compared to right above it, and it's also sharper than the rest of the stump. So just little things like that really be aware of, because let's say you get to a point where you've got a store, a gift shop that says, oh man, I love this, I want to see it, and you make a 30 by 40 to hang it in their back wall to sell, and then you enlarge this to that size, it will be a glaring, uh-oh, what happened there kind of thing. So put on your magnifying glass and get really, really close to look at some of these things just so you don't get to that situation, because that's a lot of money to spend and then find out the hard way that it didn't work. So, and I'm only speaking from experience. So
I made a lot of calls from the lab after doing a test print over an area
yeah,
on a 50 or 60-inch print, and back then say, hey, you have a negative next to this because this isn't sharp, dude. And
yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
don't want that call.
That's the
We've all
hard way
been.
to find out, isn't it? All right. So we have an image entitled Guarding the Nest.
I bet you it's a bird.
Well, we're in Colorado, Carl, so
That's true. Anything could happen. That's cool. I like the wingspan of the bird up there in the top right corner. In a natural environment, it's above the nest, and we got some nice things going on in the bottom right corner too, helping bring us up through this system. Um, I wish this wasn't here, but again, it's part of nature, and so from a naturalist standpoint, it's probably not it's probably important that it's there because it's part of the bird's home. That being said, what would happen, and it would be a simple one, if that disappeared, as well as this one, and this one, so that we have this curved branch here that is bringing us up towards that perch from that bird. But then we have no other distractions between the bird and the top right corner and the nest down here. And in which case, then I would take a little bit more off of this side, crop a little bit more off, so that the bird and the nest would appear a little bit more staggered, and give it a little bit more balance from top right corner to bottom left corner. But I think this has the making to be a really, really cool image. It's already a cool image. It has the potential of being a really cool image.
Yeah, I'm really taken by the underneath the wings, the exposure. I mean, there's so much detail and sharpness in the image itself. bird, the main center of interest, that and just sharp. We can see that even with the talons. But yeah, those are some points that are well made, because we want to see the relationship of the bird more to the nest, because it's I always find it interesting. And back earlier when we would be judging, guys, the timing of the images was so cool, because they would the handlers, you know, I'm talking back in print days, the
Right.
handlers were trained to say, okay, you announce the title, then show the image. And for me, that used to create an expectation of, okay, what am I going to see based on that title? And then occasionally you'd see where they wouldn't follow that, and you see the image come around, and then they'd read the title, and that kind of took a little bit of the impact, or the pizzazz, if you will, kind of out of the equation.
So you haven't been noticing that that's what I've been doing here? Because I mean, you're right. It's very true. As they put the title out there and then flip the image around, it kind of creates that mindset for the viewers, for the judges, of where you want them to go. That's why I think titling is so important. Yeah, and actually visually going through this in my mind, what Carl was saying about all these sticks, and man, this would be absolutely cool. I love the white background, the white sky. That's really cool in this one. But yeah, to get rid of some of those triangle of sticks in the middle there, and then a little bit in the extra on the right, this could be really very powerful. I would definitely take that to heart, maker, and play with this and see if that works, because I think that could be really cool. Well said,
Yeah,
guys.
when this particular case would be an easy work.
It really would
Yeah.
be against that white. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Very cool. Okay, so we have liftoff.
I bet you it's a bird again.
Carl,
What?
that's why we hired you, man. You're so good. You're all over this.
Remember, name that tune. We were talking.
All right, name this tune, Carl.
Again, time of day is important for stopping action. However, we didn't here, and we're. I mean, it's okay to compare image to image and a critique, and I'm going to do that because that train that we saw earlier that had the motion to it, it gave us the illusion that it was moving in that direction that the bird was flying. Here, where the wings are flapping, it's just giving us motion, but it's chaotic motion, which isn't necessarily helping tell the same story. That being said, I think those eyes are piercing. I think that's really cool. I just think that it's unfortunate that the wings, because they're moving, they're more just out of focus because of the motion, and it's doing more damage to our viewing purposes than it is helping. I think it's a wonderful scene, and you're the person who's there at a opportune time. I just think the math of it is hurting the art of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and and then we talked about little tangent points and tangent lines, but down here on the bottom, this little blade of grass or reed or whatever it is that's coming up, so easy to just eliminate. And I think, something like that, again, once you catch it, it's like one of those things, well, now I can't unsee it. But that was something that concerned me.
I think you guys have pretty well said it. Again, I've been out there with a lot of you guys capturing birds, and it's tough when we go when they're there. So you get these good shots, but again, sometimes it really has to be that factor of all of the elements of the scene. If it's something worth entering in competition, this would be a phenomenal postcard, greeting card, poster kind of a thing. People would probably buy this like crazy, because look at those eyes, look at that expression. He's looking right at you. He's wondering, what are you doing? But again, talking competition and better composition, I think those are great comments you guys have made here. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. All right. We now have Magnolia.
Well, that could be a lot of things.
I bet it's not a bird.
Oh, cool.
What's your thoughts, Carl? It's not an owl.
What was it?
It's a wise old one though.
Yeah.
What was the title? Did you say it was Magnolia?
That
Yeah,
one didn't make sense.
doesn't make sense.
Um,
That's the title that's on
no,
there.
and that's sometimes the title can do that to us too. So,
Strange.
so beyond the title, okay. So I think this person has stories to tell, and he's got character. He's got experience lines, and I think that there's a lot of really nice things going on here, like the texture in his whiskers and in the hat that's going on. Um, those parts are, I think, really well handled. The concerns for me is this almost doesn't look like a part of a shoulder. I wish that we could see a little bit more or less, but it almost doesn't look like a comfortable part of a shoulder right there, especially with his face coming back at us the way it is. And because we're human, we like contrast, and contrast happens in a lot of different ways, not just light and dark or dark or light, but in direction too. In this particular case, his face is going back where the light is coming from to the left, but his eyes are coming back at us. We have to look at his eyes. But that also tells us a balance point could be in through here. We don't need all this space here because he's looking at us from that side. So this becomes heavy in our mind. We don't need it when he's looking from that side of that frame. The light direction, I think, is very nice here because of shape and form in this person, but he has so much texture in his face that we're not seeing as much of because I think the light was hitting directly on him. And if it were feathered across him a little bit more, we would see a little bit more of the pores in his skin and that the grittiness of his skin, which I'm sure he has. Um, those comments are nitpicky. And that's like we mentioned before, we're going to be picky about this because this has a lot of potential. I think that what I would do with this, even given the way it is right now, I'd play in Nick or DxO, put it into dark contrast. It would give it, shoot it on a layer, and then hide that layer and paint it back in the crevices of his wrinkles. And a little bit in the midtones and a little bit less on the highlights. And this person is going to jump out at you a lot more than it already is.
So
Yeah, I'm kind of
my
seeing.
correction, I'll just say the title is Mongolia, and it's a long story as to why
That makes no sense.
it needed to be retitled in the file, and I actually typed in Magnolia. I'm sorry, maker. Mongolia is the title.
That makes a little more sense. Yeah.
Just shoot me. Rick, you were saying.
No, I was just making a point. I was just making a point that I felt that the top of his hat or the brim of his hat is just a little blocked up in the darker areas, the shadow areas, as is the bottom right corner.
And Carl, pardon me if you said this, but I would like to see maybe just a little bit more room on this side between the border and the ear, just to maybe a little twice that width. I like the nice tight crop on a character study, but I'm feeling that maybe this is just a little bit too tight. A little more of the beard would have shown. Maybe even pull it down a little more, show the bottom of the beard. I don't know, just kind of rounds out that character a little bit more. But I think this is great potential. I mean, just look at that face. Look at the expression. Look at the story behind it. The tonal ranges. I mean, we talk about black and white. We talk about contrast, and then there's tonal range. We've got contrast from the blacks to the brightest part, a little bit of the highlights of the skin tone. But it's what's in between in each one of those contrast ranges. When Ansel Adams talked about the zones, that there's an actual range within a zone from left to right. And this is really, really captured that. And that's the reality. That's what really happens in black and white. And that's just stunning right here, I think. So good work on that part. Anything else, guys?
Not here.
That's
Finally
good.
seen portraits. Yeah, back to my wheelhouse.
You what? I'm sorry, Carl.
And we're seeing a portrait, and I like that.
Oh.
We like
Well, let's see if I can find another one, but we are going to Nature's Cleanup Crew. So it's either a bunch of guys in jumpsuits with sticks and
dung beetles.
come on. One open.
Bottom feeders. Jeff broke it again.
You touched it.
Yeah, you don't hit that button. You said not to touch that
I
button.
know.
I didn't touch. Don't touch it.
Don't stand too close. There we go. Nature's Cleanup Crew. Whoa. Talk about graphic description.
Yeah, no kidding.
Actually have both teams, for the head first team and the second team back there behind the hyena here. Very excellent editorial piece of what life is all about, really highlighting on this I'm gonna say it's a hyena. I'm not positive if it is, but I'm sure the maker will holler.
Yeah, it is.
It's not. But anyways, but just a really great story zeroing in on the boss of this scene here, showing the kill, what they've done with it, and then the cleanup crew in the background that are waiting their turn to dive in. It's obviously a real overcast day, so I think you've handled that well. It's there's a lot of green with the grass, but I'm afraid with all the matte and the green, it looks like there's a color cast in the coat of the animal that maybe, could have been changed a little bit. Let me see, I can take that to Photoshop real quick and just pop that real quick. But you get, why is this image not staying open all of a sudden here?
As we want it to be.
I must have hit the X and then I was hitting the tab. We need a new driver here.
Did anybody else go when they saw this? I mean, that's what I like about a powerful image evokes emotion. It captures all the senses. In this case, I was almost like trying not to smell this because it's raunchy and awful, and the flies that are coming up are helping tell that story. But I think that the story is being told in a good fashion. I do wish that we didn't have that vulture right on the shoulder. I mean, these two looking off and helping the triangle is good, but this one almost is an extra ear, extra head on the hyena. So maybe
Yeah, that you're right. I agree, Carl, and I think that would be an easy fix. And we haven't talked about this tonight, and we did several times last time and prior shows, but I was concerned about the green cast as well, especially on the neck of the hyena. What do you guys think if we did a black and white conversion to make it a little bit more reportage-ish, if you want to call it that?
I'm not sure we'd get the same gut-wrenching feel about the carcass in black and white. I mean, the color, I think, seeing it makes me like almost gag reflex, Just, I mean, in black and white, it's neat too, but we're losing that
Right.
power of that part of the story, I think, in this case.
Yeah, I mean it's a good black and white, but by all means, it's definitely the story is the blood,
Yeah.
the meaty bones there, or the almost clean bones.
Or a little water buffalo. Terrible.
Okay, fine.
Well, thanks for trying, though, Rick. Thanks for playing.
Well, it wouldn't be a show. It wouldn't be a show if we didn't convert something into black and white.
I know, right? Yeah, but you know how that goes. Once we do it once and it looks good, then we try the next 10 images. So it's probably good we didn't work it out. So yeah. I think that, so the two main things you're talking about is get rid of this extra head back here and then color balance it just a little more, because there's an awful lot of yellowy green in the all throughout in the shadows here, especially of the animal up front, because obviously there is a lot of green in the scene. But I think that could make it that much more powerful. And I would almost go in and I would just kind of maybe hold back, brighten up the eyes of this animal just a tiny bit more. Minor thing, but just to kind of, give him a little bit of a highlight in the eye, so it gave it even more of an intensity to its stare. Or do some, yellow triangles works well too. So
I spent a little more time than that actually, but
all right.
that's good too, though. Remember, Jeff, that's good too.
You could.
I love that. Looking back in the top right corner, looking back over his shoulder like that. I think that's just classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to miss out, does he?
Uh,
So you were saying, you guys are both saying, take this guy on the left here, just maybe cut him out and scoot him over a few, half distance to the goal kind of thing.
I mean, in a perfect world, it would be a third of the distance of what the one on the right is, but
Sure.
I don't mind. It's separated enough, and in nature isn't perfect. So, but in this case, with the extra head, that on the right side of the
That's
hiding
the
head,
one
that's the
there,
only one.
right.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. All right. We have, and I'll clean that up in a sec here, nature's lines and patterns.
Nature's lines and patterns.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Can you enlarge that just a little bit?
Sure, hang on a sec here. I gotta go back to Photoshop to do that. How's that?
Too much. There you go. All right.
I will just start by saying that's pretty freaking awesome.
Got
Yeah.
that right.
Look
All in
at that.
favor? Hey,
What do you think, Carl?
I think it's an awesome pencil sketch feel
Yeah.
with good texture, good shape and form of things. It can be, I like the title telling that part of the story. And I'm not one, I don't like titles actually. I'm actually against titles.
Really?
Yeah, because to me, we're trying to communicate visually, through our use of light and composition and storytelling features through a visual medium. And to me, I want that telling the whole story. I don't need the title of this one, even though I think it's appropriate, but I don't need it to get the enjoyment out of this and to see the, abstract and scene all at the same time. I think the maker nailed it here to give us a story without having to give us context. They just did it with that rectangle and what was within it. So to me, that's more powerful sometimes. I mean, I wish back in the day when we had prints and the image came up and the person behind the scenes said, and one of the judges, I'm sure, would say, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the title. What was the title? The title is,
Yeah.
and if it was powerful enough that that could carry on its own, that would be awesome. And this one, I think, does that. So it's a good example of it because it's got art and math and interest all over it. So my opinion, I think it's phenomenal.
Love to see this as a 60-inch. I bet it would
Oh,
just hold
absolutely.
together so.
Maybe we should convert this to color.
What
I'm joking.
color would you like?
No. Black and white. I think this is really cool. I'm trying to think of or Escher.
Yeah.
We did it
Yeah,
when
sure.
we had all the different stairways and everything in black and white, and this kind of has that kind of feel to it, where you can just kind of wander around within this scene and find yourself in all kinds of little crevices and peaks and valleys, and very interesting.
Rick, thoughts?
Gosh, it's hard to critique something that's on such a really great level. The tonality and the range of the highlights and shadows is just so well in key. I don't know if maybe, something like right here, because again, it's a lighter value against that border. And I was wondering about this dark area here, you know, as far as cropping in, but I wouldn't do that because we have this area here that's dark, but it's balanced on the right side with this dark area. So, you know, it's a difficult one for me to critique and say, you know, you should do this or should do that, because I just feel that it's a complete package for me.
Yeah, this is one of those images that you know, how do you know where to crop it? Because wherever you cut it, there's going to be something that is going to create another issue or story or whatever. So I think the balance of what's here, like you just said, Rick, the dark on the left and the dark on the right, those kind of things just pull your eye in and let you wander back and forth. And of course, the lines of the ridges take us all the way to the point here, which is kind of our focal point. So, you know what I say? The only thing I would say that's wrong with this is it doesn't say Jeff Johnson right here.
Exactly. We can fix that.
No, this is absolutely outstanding. I could see this, you know, I hate to say this, but I could see this doing well in competition. I don't want to make any promises or anything, but that's just what I'm thinking. This is a stellar black and white, stellar subject matter. Love the point of view, the mat, everything about it is just so well done. Very, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a quick break, guys. So we haven't done it for. Let's take just a quick 5-minute break. Everybody can stretch and check things out. So let me just take this down. So go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back 20 after. We'll resume at 25 after.
Sounds good.
And people are still there. That's the cool thing. Any questions from the peanut gallery? Anybody that has thoughts? I was reading a couple of things that were mentioned in the chat box. The one image we were looking at of the hyena with the carcass, and it's just the comment was for IPC, reportage and wildlife are not allowed to remove elements. So kind of going against what I was suggesting, but you know, depending on how you use it. The other comment, the image of a hawk flying with the mountain in the background should be titled "Power to See Far and Wide."
You're doing great on the timing, by the way, Jeff.
Yeah, we haven't heard from you, so we must be.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier about ASP images. Is there a way of finding out, you know, what a score was or how it placed or anything like that? You have to be a member of ASP to get on their site and do that.
No, that was judged through
that was judged.
I don't know. I'm hearing an echo of myself. Are you guys hearing my echo?
Competition.
That's just too weird. I don't know what's going on here. Actually, Thea, can you help us with that?
Thea, can you help us with that?
Sure. For any competition.
Oh, we're getting feedback from everybody.
Feedback from everybody.
I have no idea how to change that at this point because it's so far after the comment that okay. Thea, go ahead.
For any image that is entered into a competition through printcompetition.com, if you are a premium member of printcompetition.com, you can go into the archives and look for your images, or if you go into your portal and there is a little section called past entries that will show you your past entries and the scores. And if you're a premium member, then you can listen to your audio right there under past entries.
Isn't that link in the upper right-hand corner towards the top of the header of that interface? There's like a blue box. I think that it's past entries. I'm
Yep.
not mistaken. Yeah. Yeah.
And just for ASP, since that was brought up, if you have entries that sealed in round one, to move them forward into round two to get any of the artistry points, you'll want to make sure you enter them. You can keep them sealed, so you just re-enter them as is, or if you break the seal, you can basically rework the image and it will be rescored.
So,
Um,
right, so if you have a high score, you might, how are the scores going to carry through into will they at all?
the scores do carry through,
If you got a high
and
score, leave it alone, basically.
yeah, it's up to the maker. If there was one thing keeping it from going up to the next category, the maker could choose to break the seal. But also, since there are artistry points involved, if you're close to the artistry medallion, that's certainly something that maybe you would want to not break a seal.
Good point. Good point. So I don't hear this. Somebody mentioned they hear the echo still. I don't hear the echo anymore. Does anybody else hear it? That was a weird thing. It just kind of went away.
Yeah, I don't hear it.
Okay.
I
Good.
don't hear it.
All right. Well, it's 25 after. Rick, did you send Cliff his paycheck? You want to hold it back for?
Yeah.
You're worth every bit we're paying you, Cliff.
That's right,
Oh,
man.
I'm sure.
Every bit. All right. I'm going to steal the screen again and we'll go back to look at some more pretty pictures. All right. So this next one, let's see, where do we left off with Magnolia. No, that's not true. We have nesting time. Carl, thoughts? Sir?
Cool eagle. Yeah, I like the span from the wings from top to bottom. I think it's pretty cool. I am concerned with the math of it, the exposure. It just seems weak throughout the body, and the wings, and compositionally, it almost has the same amount of space in the front of it to go to as in the back. I wish that we had a little more space on the left side of the bird for it to be flying into, and a little less from where it's going or coming from. But cool expanse, cool timing of the image. I just think it feels a little bit weak in exposure.
Yeah, the contrast and saturation were a concern for me. And because of that, I'm seeing or sensing kind of a cyan look on the eagle's head, you know, especially behind the eyes or the eye. Yeah, and I think that would be a major concern if this was in competition. But again, I agree with the wingspan, you know, nice, but also the lighting. We just really don't have any directional lighting that makes it dimensional or snap off of the palette.
Yeah, well said, guys. I agree with all that you're saying, and I want to say that I know what's well color coordinated. I think I would have chosen a matte that was of a different color, and I don't know what happened. My screen just changed colors like crazy. Did you see that?
Well, nice break in the day, though, isn't it?
I don't know what happened there. I don't have anything set for, but all of a sudden it went to this cold light. The heck is that? Oh boy. Anyways, yeah, so I would have liked to have seen the matte. I would have just matched the sky color to give it more freedom, fuller sky to fly in. So maker maybe consider that for this image if you want to go forward with it. So sorry, that kind of threw me for, I don't know what happened with my screen color, just totally changed there. Like, that's not good. Why not? It couldn't do it on Thursday afternoon when nobody's around. It has to do it when 25 people are paying attention. All right, we are watching now On the Lookout. Ooh, beautiful.
Whoa.
Artist piece. Carl, I'll refer to you. This is something you know well.
Yeah, I like the idea of, I mean, we're seeing the thumbnails down here, so we know what they started with and where they went to. The bird, the subject is handled very well. I think your texture and light and shape and form from the lighting that was brought into it. I like that you gave us some foreground in this corner, bottom right corner, to give us some depth and dimensions. We got foreground, subject, background. The background and foreground have similar characteristics because of the color. So it harmonizes well. I think your placement of the lily pads here, the flowers are nice. And again, that we see 5 odd number is important. It's a comfort level, good compositional thought process, good framing, a lot of really nice things going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I would really be high on this one, quite frankly. What really struck me was the artistry. If we look right about here and we see what's, I don't know, the foliage, if you want to call it that, and then foliage on this side and above, and it just forms, for me, a natural vignette for the bird, because there are really no tangent points of the beak against the foliage or the back tuft of that feather, if you want to call it that. I mean, it's just a good profile against the background and composition. I don't think it could be any better.
I agree. This is just stunning piece. One thing that I'm going to kind of throw this at you, Carl, because you know the art part of it so well. The flowers themselves just appear to be, I mean, I know they're subdued in density or brightness so that it's, you know, set back, but they just, I don't know, they don't appear to be right. I hate to use the word right. I don't know what else to say. Or am I wrong?
It's hard to tell on the Zoom screen here like this too, but
True.
I think we're seeing reflection from each one of them. So we're seeing it, you know, a mirrored image. But you're also should be seeing a little bit of a shadow too. And I think we're seeing the grounding shadow underneath the actual image, the reflection from it. I appreciate that, that they're all a little bit different, even though we started with one single flower. I would be a little careful though from this angle. I'm not sure there'd be that much of a separation between the reflection and the flower. And at the very least, they would be all very similar. Whereas here we started getting a little bit too close to this one compared to the distance they are apart on this one, and this one they're touching. So I would really look at that as a concern too. If you wanted to get really picky with it and see if that can be more natural feeling.
Right. I think this has such great potential of doing very well in competition that a little thing like that, I'd hate to see it be the reason that it didn't, oops. Oh, stop it. That it didn't hit the high note. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, guys. I hit the scroll wheel on my mouse there. We have somebody in the
Yeah,
who
I
knows their
guess,
work project.
yeah, I guess, you know, good points, but I'm just seeing that they're blending so well with the way the background was rendered. Yeah, I guess so, but I wouldn't hang my hat too much on that because everything else is just so harmonious and put together so well. Because again, we're looking at an artist piece, and I'm looking at where we're starting from at the bottom
Right.
with all these different elements, and when we come together, man, there's a lot of dynamism to this image.
Yeah, let me just wheel these in.
Look underneath the bird, that I just noticed that, look in this area right here. Is that a halo, a kind of a halo thing that's going on? It might be something to look at. I didn't notice it when it was zoomed out. But. so
Yeah,
right-
there's your pieces a little closer. They're quite amazing. Sorry, Carl, I keep moving on you. Where were you
Right.
trying? Keep
Right,
trying. Moving target.
right here. Just look at that area closer and make sure that there's no problems in there. But see how it kind of carries down.
Oh yeah.
And again, that could be a zoom resolution thing, but definitely, I mean, it's just so many nice things going on here that you don't want a little nitpicky place in there to
Right.
cause issues.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is one of those.
And you know what, like has been mentioned earlier, when we actually are in a judging situation, they're calibrated monitors, and when we're working on a Zoom platform, it's not giving us the optimum opportunity to view.
Yeah. But having said all those things, very well done. Very well done.
Absolutely.
Strong work. Top notch, top notch.
Power to see far and wide.
Whoa. Huh.
Go ahead, Carl. You have
Now
a
we
thought?
got some cool detail on this bird. Okay, first thought is that I really appreciate or enjoy the warmth of the color coming across here. That's number one to me. Number two is that, back to number one, that it works between the subject and the background here, so that your palette is staying from subject to background, which is a good thing. But we still got good shape and form of this bird, the highlight of the body to the shadow of the body, and then the texture within all those spaces too is carried over very nicely. This a very strong look to the bird. On its face, I like the backlit little rim lighting going on here. So many nice things. What can make it better? Oh, wow. Good question. I think seeing, bringing the value of the contrast of the background ground might be something to look at. Again, I would look at it as an option and then make a call as an artist, what you think. But this looks definitely muddy in comparison to the bird and in comparison to what's going on back here. And no atmosphere and problems like that, but we have that tool in our toolbox now to play with, and it might be something to look into.
Yeah, I agree. That's the first thing that struck me, was the difference between the sharpness and contrast of the bird against the scene that it's in. I'm not expecting the scene in the mountains in the background to have those exact same values, but there's just, for me, a bit of a disconnect. So yeah, I would like to see more contrast. And I'm not sure that the color of the mat is helping that out, especially since we have the muted colors of the mountains and even in the sky. I think that the color of the mat is adding to that phenomenon, if you will. It makes them look, that much more muted.
That's probably
It almost looks like 2 photographs to me.
I was just thinking the same thing, Rick. What if we crop the bottom off completely?
Sure.
We can do that. Uncle Jeffy, crop for us, crop for us. I mean, I like the idea of the ground, but not with it being as muted as it is in comparison to everything else.
Right.
Whoa. And we could take a little bit off the top end too, but that's just a whole nother thought process. But look at how much more that bird stands out here now because it's not comparing that foreground contrast difference. Interesting thought. Things that make you go, huh?
I was just thinking the same thing. Things that make you go, huh, in the night. Yeah,
I do like that.
The only thing about this, I do like this, but I do like the depth that it creates with the mountains
I
back
agree.
there.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean,
It
I'm
just
glad the
changed
clouds are there.
completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coin toss.
Yeah. I think that this could easily be adjusted so that, burn in contrast in those mountain areas. And then we have the best of both worlds.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. So now we have ruffled feathers.
I bet you it's a bird.
No, it's a Native American headdress. Oh, wait, no, it is. Or as my daughter used to call them, pelicans. Pelicans. Rick, what are your thoughts on the pelicans?
I really enjoy this. I think that the presentation is handled well. We've got really nice color harmony. The light is soft, but we do have get my tool here. But we do have, the highlight areas and shadowed areas. Good to me, good exposure. And we see the pelicans down here and nice profiles, almost of all of them, except this one in the middle. But no, as it stands, I think it's just well composed, well put together in terms of the presentation. We talked a little while ago about trying to avoid a bright white matte, and I think they did a really good job by sampling a color in the image to take it off white, so it isn't really glaring at an individual. So I think it's a very, very pleasing image to me.
Carl?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think as it stands, it's really nice, and everything positively said is, I think, common to everybody that views it. The issue is going to come in that, does it have enough impact for everybody down the line? And that's when you start thinking about image to image sometimes. But this as it stands, I think is really cool. I love the different directions of the beaks and the colors, and I think the math of it, like you said, the exposure is well handled, and we see it and notice it because of the presentation. So yeah, strong work.
Totally agree, guys. I think everything about it is just really handled very well. It's very, very pleasing composition. And I do like that we've got a couple of these guys looking in different directions. It just kind of shows the individuality of each one of them, and yet they come together as a group. So that's tough because you get a bunch of birds in the water like this, and you don't always have a nice pattern. So this was nice, little groupings, little connection between them, and then the individuality. So overall, very nicely done. Good work.
If you look really close, Jeff, you'll notice that this one has an earpiece in, and so it's communicating with the maker that it's, swim a little farther to the right. And so it's always a good thing.
He's got the new DJI communication devices.
Yeah.
Tell him, okay, no, a little bit, no, another half a beak shorter.
Half a paddle, half a paddle, half a paddle.
Paddle, yep. Stop right there, stop right there. Too funny.
Yeah.
Too funny. All right. So now we have just a few more to go here. Standing strong. There we go. Another beautiful art composition, Carl.
Yeah. Again, very much appreciate the foreground subject background, giving us depth, not just from left to right or right to left, or top to bottom, but into the scene, so we can reach into it and giving us the backlight feel really makes this bird jump off the screen. It goes real well with the foreground little ridge there too, so that way the lighting matches what's going on through here. But the contrast in color here between the subject and the background, I think, is well handled. The artistry on the bird itself is very well done too. Good textures kept in throughout from the thumbnail to the actual finished product. Yeah, a lot of really nice things going on. Not sure what else I would change.
Rick?
Yeah, my compliments to the maker in the color contrast, because we have color harmony and then we have color contrast. This is such a great example of color contrast. You know, we see these cool values on the bird, but yeah, it's surrounded by all this warm environment and into the presentation that I think was handled really well. Gosh, if I had just any comment, it would just be that, you know, we're just up in the top left corner, just a little light, you know, maybe just toning it down just a little bit. I don't know if you guys are sensing that it's just a little light up in the top left corner. I mean, that's just a small thing, but that was just something that kind of caught my attention.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know that it necessarily bothers me. There's definitely a difference, and I'm trying to picture it without, if that was more the same tone as the rest of the background. I don't know. It might help. It might just be different.
And maybe it's drawing my attention because on the top right area, it's, you know, so much more texture and character and
True.
darkness than it is on this area, and maybe that's why I'm being drawn to
There's a little more
top left.
contrast on that right corner, which is
Yeah,
really right. And honestly, I
but
can't.
that's a beautiful image.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. And you know,
I just noticed something though.
oh, go ahead.
I just noticed, look right here. Make sure, and maybe it's again the zoom thing, but it looks like there's like a horizontal cut line right across here on the top of the grass that was brought in. So maker, if they're on here, just look at it closer, make sure that nothing got missed right there. Maybe again, it's just maybe pixelation on the Zoom call
I
here.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
It just boom, hit me right there at that last minute. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
And again, to show you how when we get something that's, if I can get my scroll wheel to work here, that's so well done, you start looking at all the little things, and it's funny how the thing that catches my eye that I might suggest changing is just the color of the keystrokes, the key lines around the mat. They're just bright enough that it's attracting attention. Again, really minor thing, but maybe make them a little more subtle, because this is just such a wonderful piece. We don't need anything else to pull away from it. So good work.
Right.
Good work. I think Cliff did that, didn't you, Cliff? Yeah.
I can name that maker in one tune.
All right, so now we have sun, sea, and spray. Make it just a little bigger here.
Which is which?
Yeah, I can feel the mist. What do you think?
Oh, you know, the mist coming off of that wave is the PowerPoint. I mean, that's the center of interest. And yet, I mean, it almost looks like horses running towards us, which is an image I've been thinking about for a lot of years. But I think it just feels out of balance with the foam in the foreground. I mean, it's placed in a powerful place, but it just seems like the foreground is taking up so much real estate that it's hard to stay on that powerful center of interest area. But I'm not sure cropping is going to help it either. We can try and take some off that bottom, and probably 2/3 of the foam off. See, and then we're centering the powerful area too. And so it's one of those things where things didn't quite line up just right to be able to crop it into a place that's powerful with what else is there in the scene. But I think it's pretty, but I think that it's going to be a balance issue when it's said and done.
Yeah, it's too bad that all that foam in the water is kind of nice texture and content to bring us in the scene, but it is a little bit much. And yeah, when we do crop it, it tends to, it makes that one, there's a dark spot in the middle of that middle wave there, puts it right smack in the center, and I would almost retouch that out. I don't mind this crop though. I mean, I think there's still plenty of power. The waves are broken up enough, and the horizon line of the earth behind it is not obvious enough to put a real specific line there. I might even crop down. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I was gonna say I might even crop down a little bit more on the top too, but I don't want to cut into that spray so much. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, this is another one of those where, it's a kind of a tough time of day. We've got this bright sunlight and we've sunlight, and we've got so many tonal values, the dark areas here, and then right here where we're blown out exposure wise, in addition to the compositional concerns that you guys had. It's just a real tough one. The next thing for me, the other thing I should say, is impact. Certainly there's immediate impact with this image because of the torrent of the wave. But it just is kind of fleeting for me. I always like to think of impact from two different perspectives. One is lasting impact, and the other is like fleeting, because every image has impact to a certain degree.
Right.
Unfortunately for me, I just feel that the impact wanes, and I just don't really appreciate what I probably should be appreciating because of the lack of.
That's the lack.
How about I'm just seeing another crop that might be just, we got powerful waves, strong beauty of these waves, maybe bring it in,
Yeah.
let the wave, we just even bring it inside of that one there.
Like I said, it looks like horses coming at you,
It kind of
Yeah, it
does,
does.
doesn't it?
making up stuff and looking at the clouds,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But this pulls that stronger, larger wave more towards the power point there, and well, I guess it's more centering it. But I don't know, just another possibility. But it does play down the horizon line of the earth and the water this way.
Yeah.
Cool stuff either way.
Has good flow. We'll work on that.
Okay. Well, we have that recorded, Carl, so in case you wonder.
All right.
I won't let me go backwards here. And oh well. Okay. So we have next. Come on, let me get out of here. We just have we have 3 images to go, so we're doing pretty well here. Sunrise on the savannah. Rick, you want to jump in? What you
Yeah,
think?
I really enjoyed this composition. I like the color hue. I'm not able to discern, at least is how sharp the silhouette is of the giraffe. How are you guys seeing it? How sharp it is?
Well, I'll
'Cause-
cheat a little bit. I feel like it's it's not bad. Look at the hair on the back of it. It's definable, but I don't know that it's as sharp as you might like. Carl, what do you think?
Um, I always go back to subject matter, and the drafts are here. I'm sure what the main subject is, And it's the one on the left is definitely standing out against the skyline, which is nice. But the sun is its own subject, and it's very large in comparison to the other subjects. In this case, I think it actually takes over the impact of what they want us to look at. So to me, I wish, and this happened, I have this wish a lot of times looking at images. I wish the sun wasn't there, because I think it would be a more powerful scene and telling me where to go without it.
Yeah, and you know, good point. Go ahead, Jeff.
All I was gonna say is the title is Sunrise on the Savannah, so I think to me it's kind of talking more about the time of day.
And
As
talking more
opposed
about
to-
the time of day.
Here's that darn echo again. As opposed to talking about the life there or the giraffe or whatever. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I was just going to say that this, because of the exposure, it's not a silhouette, but it's also not, we're not seeing, you know, some contrast and saturation in the neck of or the body of the giraffe. And then we have this haloing or muddiness of the trees, because again, I think it's an exposure thing. So I would be curious to see if this wasn't taken all the way to a silhouette, you know, because we're seeing these muted lack of saturation in the tree and in the giraffe itself.
Yeah, good point. So you notice that we'd lose this second giraffe in here if we go into silhouette, which I don't know how much it's
And that's
really.
okay for me. That would be okay for me.
It's not standing
Yeah.
out enough, yeah. So if its head was up
Right,
here,
right.
then I think it would be different.
Right.
But
Right.
if to lose that wouldn't be so serious. But that's a
Right.
good try, Maker. I maybe suggest to play with that and take it to a silhouette, because you're obviously still going to have the impact of the scene, and then taking obviously pretty much everybody knows the shape of a giraffe, so you're not going to lose that. You'll just lose some of the texture and detail in the foreground, which I don't know is good, bad, or indifferent. It's worth a try, though, right? I think.
And that's what defines a silhouette anyway. I mean, it's so
Yeah,
that would be fine.
Another option for sure.
exactly. And then I'm looking at too, if you did a silhouette, then this is an awful lot of black or dark on the bottom. I might crop it up halfway. Just
Mhm.
to not
For
have that
sure,
much
yeah.
heaviness. Yeah. Okay. Next we have the chapel.
Oh,
Carl, what do you think?
these are pencil sketches, and again, that's kind of cool. Nice design work. I really enjoy the perspective of the highlighted ends of the pews. And in contrast with the lights going from foreground all the way to that back altar area, very symmetrical. A lot of really nice things going on in there. So design wise, it's good. The math, I think, it looks really darn good. As far as exposure. So yeah, a lot of really nice things.
Yeah, there really are. And what I appreciate about it are the leading lines that are coming in, the kind of the vanishing point lines from the pews, the lights coming in and focusing right into the altar area. Really cool. I would probably tone down the window on this side here a little bit. Not quite as symmetrical as I would want it, because we have this area up here, and you know, we're not seeing that, so it's but that's, you know, that's a smaller issue. But everything taken into consideration compositionally and graphically, I think was well done.
So I was expecting Ricky to say that's too bad there wasn't a priest or somebody standing down. I swear you were going to say that. Pretty cool stuff here. I like this. Too funny. Too funny. Okay. We now have This is our last image of the evening. It's called the glory of the red, white, and blue. Carl, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, you would definitely see the flag there. Definitely stands out. You know, the scene is nice of the building, just the way that the architecture of it gives us good angles. That being said, it looks a little bit cool. I mean, I know they're down in the valley and the sun's coming up over the top, so you're gonna have that coolness and everything, but it's at a time of day that it's just kind of dead as far as shape and form, you know, to create on this building. It looks very flat, and then it's unfortunate that the roof line is so close to that ridge line on the right side, on the back side of it, over here, and it gives our mind a little something that can a continuation, but not part of the structure. So it's too close and not close enough at the same time. But I think also this is the kind of thing that, I mean, it's almost a panoramic of this scene. I think that if we saw more on the right and left, if possible, given what's there, might allow us to have this be a little bit smaller within the scene, and give us a more emotional feel to it. That, you know, it's a, you know, the red, white, and blue out in the, you know, vast area, you know, not just in the mainstream of America, but also in the ranches and in the fields and in the agriculture or whatever, whatever the story is that you're trying to tell. But I think it might give us more of that story, kind of like that photojournalism image that we looked at before.
Mhm. Yeah. For me, it was time of day, and which leads to everything that Carl was saying, because we certainly have nice lighting among the peaks, but is that where we want the lighting? Isn't this the story? So shouldn't this be the area that should be lit to the best advantage that we possibly can to tell the story? And then the range, if we had that some light on it, that would be great, but that would be secondary, in my opinion, to the story that's being told.
I think this kind of goes back to our conversation before, where Carl was talking about he's not a fan of titles. And while the title is good, it draws us into the flag. I don't know that that's necessary. I think a title more appropriately something about the time of day, or that would have maybe helped explain why the light is what it is. I would like to see the light on the mountains could be toned down just a bit to get a little more of that warmth that we see. And then even there could be just a tiny bit more detail in the trees, the hay bales and the farm. But I really think that Carl made a great point there. If this farm was a lot smaller, half the size in the scene, you know, obviously if there's more mountains or something to show, that would be, I think, even more showing the enormity of the mountains and the little ranches that were such. But, you know, again, this is what we're presented, so this is what we're saying about it. So
Yeah.
any other comments, men? Yeah.
Carl, again,
Yes.
how can you be contacted? Because you're doing seminars in schools all over the country and probably the world. In case any of our friends are interested, they can reach you at,
Photoimagesbycarl.net.
okay, and your book is sold out.
Just sold out, no more. So
Well, I can't tell
I
you
don't
how
even
much.
have a copy.
I can't tell
Seriously.
you how much I appreciate you being here, and I'm sure Jeffy's going to express his appreciation as well. But thank you, my friend. And if you
Anytime.
want to hang on for a little bit, and then we'll visit. But thank you so much, and thank you to all our viewers.
Thank you for watching the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson and Rick Avalos. Learn more by checking them out at theimagecritiqueshow.com.